starting up and recording. Okay, that's definitely recording, so that's good. Okay, what are we talking about today? So today is all about keeping control of your divorce and looking at how you could do some of it yourself. Really interesting topic, and I find it fascinating to find out whether people are doing it themselves. Are you doing a mix of buying in the help when you need it, or do you have a lawyer doing it all for you? Really, really good to find out, because I always find that fascinating, because people do different things. Some people are desperate to not pass it to a lawyer. Some people will always go straight to a lawyer. And I find it interesting to know. And also, while I'm talking, it's always a good idea to know whether you've already got lawyers, whether you're trying to manage the process yourself, because that's the topic of the talk today. So do let me know in the chat box. Are you doing it yourself? Have you got someone doing it for you? Are you just hoping to buy in help as and when you need it? And while you're doing that, I'm going to share my screen. So you should be able to see that, I hope. So somebody said they've got a lawyer doing that for them. Another person has got a mix, no lawyer yet, but will now use a mediator and solicitor to check. No lawyer, just starting. Great, thank you for sharing that. It's always good to know. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about how you can take control of your divorce, which is really important. You know, at this moment, you might be feeling completely out of control. You might be in a situation where you're thinking, during your marriage, you didn't have control over what was going on. Maybe you don't have the funds for somebody to do everything for you. But regardless of whether you've got the funds or not, it's always a good idea to have some element of control over this process. I hear the worst stories where people don't know that legal proceedings have been started. They feel completely out of control because somebody's doing everything. And I had a call with someone yesterday who said that their lawyer wasn't doing the things they were asking them to do. They weren't following instructions. They didn't really understand what was going on. And that always worries me a bit when I hear that, because it's so important for you to be completely knowledgeable about what is going on, what you're instructing somebody to do, how you want this process to be. I also see lawyers sending really aggressive emails. The tone is so aggressive, the clients have no chance of settling their divorce themselves or settling it out of court. And so just keeping an element of control is really important. Before I start on that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you may not have come across me before. My name is Bhavna Radia. I am a former divorce lawyer, a divorce coach, single mum of 3 daughters. I qualified as a lawyer in my 20s, and I specifically concentrated on family law. So this is something that I've been doing for many, many years. I won't tell you my age, but it's been a long time. I got married, and you think that marriage is forever. This is your happily ever after. These things are never going to happen to you because you know the pitfalls. And some of you will know that I found myself in 2011, 14 years ago, facing the prospects that you are. So my marriage came to an end. It was a decision that I made to end the marriage, but I felt forced into it. It wasn't something that I wanted, but sometimes you can't change things, even though you've tried for many years. And you have to accept that things are either going to stay the same or you leave. Because you can't change a person, you can't change circumstances. You can only change what your behavior is. And so I made that difficult decision, and I was completely heartbroken. I found it really hard. It was an emotional roller coaster. Some of you will understand how this feels, because it sounds like, many of you are at the beginning stages. My mental health suffered, and but the process started regardless. The children were really young at the time. My youngest was 1, and obviously, you have to manage this process alongside managing the children as well. I found it really tough to get through, and I kept thinking, but I've got legal knowledge. I know this process, I know what to do, and I can do it all myself. I don't have to pay anybody to do anything for me. And I was still overwhelmed. I was still frightened. I still found it really tough. And I always wonder what it is like for people that don't have legal knowledge, because it must be so much harder for you. And that's why I put these sessions on, to give you an element of knowledge, so that maybe you can feel less overwhelmed and you've got some support there as well. So my divorce took a few years, and we did get through it, but towards the end of it, things got even worse. We ended up being in a position where we'd sold the family home, and the girls and I had nowhere to live for a while. So it was pretty difficult, but I did, buy my own home, moved in, and life settled down. And at this point, I was making decisions about work, because now with 3 very young children on my own, and family not living close by, I had to make some decisions on whether I continued working full time as a lawyer, doing sort of 40 hours a week whilst managing everything for the children. And at that point, my ex-husband didn't have very much contact, and that was something he chose. But he wasn't doing the holidays. He wasn't having much contact. And so trying to manage 14 weeks of school holidays, sick days, assemblies, sports days, all the other things that you have to do for the children, I found it really hard working in an office quite far away, doing that many hours. And so I started thinking about what I could offer. And I wanted to set up my own business to give me freedom, but to also give me the freedom to offer the services I felt were right for people going through this. And a lot of the work that I do is to help people save money, to try and keep things amicable, and to help empower and make you knowledgeable, to take a level of control so that you can save yourself money. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I work at the end. But this topic is obviously very close to my heart because of these reasons, because everything that I do is about giving you control, empowering you, and giving you knowledge so that you can save money. You can make sure this process is the way that you want it to be. And actually going through this challenge will make you grow and transform as an individual as well. So let's talk about taking control of your own divorce. As I found, as you've probably found, divorce can feel really overwhelming. It's really stressful right now, and very expensive. And that's the thing. People tell me they are spending 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. I spoke to somebody recently who'd spent 100,000 and they hadn't even finished. So it can be a really expensive process. But it doesn't have to be this way. How can we do this? Why is this even important? Because lots of people would say to me, I didn't realize that I had the choice to do it myself. I didn't realize that I could have a mix of getting some help, doing some of it myself. I thought the only way was to get a lawyer and get them to do everything for me, because surely a lawyer has to complete paperwork. Surely the lawyer has to sign off things. Surely I have to have a legal representative. Well, you don't have to have a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer to sign things off necessarily. You don't need a lawyer to draw up everything. And you certainly are hoping not to go to court, so you don't need someone to represent you. It may come a time where, depending on how things go, that you might have court hearings. A lot of my clients do their own court hearings, again, to save money and to be in control of the process. But you don't necessarily have to have a lawyer do everything for you for them to represent you at court. We can get somebody who just does court hearings for us so that you've got a representative at court. So just for you to understand that you don't necessarily need a lawyer for any of this or all of it even. The average cost in the UK on legal fees is 18,000 per person. And I know when I was going through it, I didn't have that sort of money, even for me, let alone for both of us. And obviously this is an average cost. It can be higher, it could be slightly lower. And a lot of people can't afford this. They just don't have the money to spend that much on lawyers, especially when you are looking at a time when you need the money because you are splitting your household. You might need to buy 2 properties. You might need to transfer a property. So because there's so much going on, you may not have the funds. And as I said, some people have lawyers and feel like they're not in control and they don't know what's going on, or things aren't being explained to them properly. And so they still don't feel happy. So the truth is, you can do this in different ways. You don't have to do it in one way. You could keep your fees down. You could have no fees even. And lots of people are now doing it themselves. They are saying, we want to DIY this because we don't want to have to spend money. So what am I going to be talking about today that might help you? I want to give you some practical steps to take. I want to help you save money. I want you to be organized and in control of the divorce process. I want you to be able to communicate so that, again, you can avoid unnecessary conflict. You can save the back and forth with lawyers, but you learn how to do this effectively as well. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. So let me just move on to the next slide. And I think we've talked about this already, so I won't go through that again. But the first step that I would like to take you through is for you to know a little bit about the divorce process. So you could think about how you could save money and go through this yourself. So some of you will have already started this because you've said that you've submitted divorce applications already. But for those of you that are literally right at the beginning, from a process point of view, divorce is now no fault. You do not have to tell the court, the other person, what happened. You don't need to prove any wrongdoing on anyone's side at all. So from a no fault point of view, you are just saying that the marriage has broken down and that's it. And when you are looking at the divorce application, and by divorce application, I'm talking about the legal ending of your marriage, not necessarily the finances or who's going to move out the family home or what's going to happen with the children or anything like that. It is literally, you've got a marriage certificate that says that you're legally married. Now you are moving towards having a document to say that you are no longer married, you're divorced. So this is the divorce application. And the courts have made it so simple now that you can do your own divorce application. It used to be so complicated, but now it's much simpler. The language is simpler. You have to answer a series of questions, and that populates your divorce application, which you can submit yourself. So I always say to people, do this bit yourself if you can, because it can save you money. Lawyers can charge between £1,000 to £1,500 to do this bit for you. You don't actually need to pay anyone to do it. You can do it yourself. So that's one element. There is a court fee. The court fee was £593. I believe it's gone up in April to £610. So once you've completed your divorce application online, you pay the fee and you can submit it. And that's if you're doing a sole application. If you're doing a joint application, there's a slightly different process, but that is where you and the other person work together to submit the divorce application, so that it's not one of you doing it, you're doing it together. And there is still a fee to pay for that. You can get help with fees for your divorce if you are on low income, on certain benefits, and you don't have much capital. So if you think that that might be you, check out on the government website, help with fees, and have a look at that. That's only available for sole applications. So if you're doing a sole application and you're on limited income, that might be a way of not paying the court fee or only paying a part of it. So the divorce application, you can definitely save money there. The next element that you have to look at is the finances. And somebody did mention that they're now looking at finances, starting to have conversations around finances. We need to make sure that your assets that you have that are likely intermingled if you're married, or if you're just living together even, but obviously we're talking about divorce, are mixed together now. And you will have certain things in your name, the other person will have certain things in their name, and you may have things in joint names. You might also have things in joint names with other people, say your parents, your siblings, a friend, business partner. And so all of this are finances that need to be looked at. So what you need to do when you are starting to think about what do we do with everything that we have is start to get a good understanding of what you have in your name, the other person's name, and joint names with your ex-spouse, but with other people as well. And the kind of things I'm talking about when I say assets that you have, this is property that you might live in, property that you have as an investment, money in the bank, shares, ISAs, any investments that you have like share options. You could have a wide range of cryptocurrency, anything that you own like that. Motor vehicles, gold jewelry, if it has a value of more than £500. We're looking at pensions. So quite a lot of different things when we're looking at assets. So assets are anything with a value over £500. You might be owed money by somebody. So a family member may have borrowed £50,000 from you by, for example, and that could be an asset because you're going to get that paid back. And then you also need to look at the debts in your name, any liabilities in your name, in the other person's name, and in joint names. By liabilities, what we're talking about is credit card debt, any tax liability you have. So if you owe the taxman any money you owe to family or friends. So anything like that, even shop accounts. So if you have an account with a shop, for example, you may have bought something on credit from a shop, then if you're paying that back, that would be a debt, any loans you have. So you have to then think about writing all this down as well. And that we're also looking at your income and expenditure. So what you need to do is make a note, a spreadsheet of all of your assets, everything in your name, everything in the other person's name, and in joint names. And look at the values for everything. So if you've got a property, you're looking at the value of the house, you're looking at minus the mortgage, because that's obviously a liability. And that gives you your equity, which is the value of the property. So put all this down on a spreadsheet. Put down everything that you owe on the spreadsheet. And then also look at all the money you have coming in as income and all the expenditure you have monthly. What this does is give us a background of your finances. And once we've got a background, we can start looking at how you are going to share your finances. So this is something that you need to do. And by doing it yourself, that can really save money if it is possible. You can use a court form called a Form E to record all this information, although it's not compulsory to use Form E. Solicitors like Form E, that's what they will always get you to do, but you can do it yourself using a Form E or just using a simple spreadsheet, whichever works for you. The other element that you need to plan for is your children. If you have children, you need to think about the best plan for them going forward when you are living separately. The courts will not get involved when you're going through a divorce. They won't even ask you what your plan is. They assume as parents, you will make decisions that are the best for children. You need to agree with your ex-husband or wife what will happen with the children. What is best for them? What is in the children's best interest? What fits around your work patterns? How can you structure this so that both of you get quality time, but also we're looking at what is in the children's best interests. So these are the things that you need to understand around the divorce process. And divorce is not just legal. We're talking about some legal elements, but there is other elements as well, like the children, although we do need to think about what happens to the children. And there are some legal elements that we can think about when we're looking at what's best for them. It's also what you believe as parents that is best for them as well. So you need to get an understanding of this divorce process around finances, around children, and around the legal aspect of actually ending your marriage so that you can save money because you understand what needs to happen. And I do separate talks on finances. I've done a talk on financial disclosure, which is what I was talking about, actually preparing the information. I do a talk on fair settlement. What is fair for you in your circumstances? And one around how to get to completion, how to make your finances legally binding. So they're on my YouTube channel. So feel free to go away and watch those so you get a more in-depth understanding of each of these elements. And of course, I do a session on children as well. So you'll find that as well. So watch those to get an idea of what you can do yourself around the children, around finances. And think about your emotional health as well. And people wonder how they can save money if they are sort of thinking about their mental health. Because if you look after your emotional health, you will manage this process better. You might be less stressed, slightly less overwhelmed. Maybe you'll be able to make better decisions around this time. You can be mentally prepared, which means that you're almost ready to deal with what's going to come. But also, it's thinking about things where you're preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. We always have to prepare for the worst, but I'm always hoping that the best happens. So try and spend some time on thinking about how to manage your emotions so that you can make better decisions. You can manage this process better. And again, I do a talk separately about that. So you might just need to bring in these extra talks to get an idea of everything. But from a practical point of view, the other thing that you can do is stay organized with this process, with your documents. The more structure you have like that, the easier it feels, because you will often need to bring documents to meetings. You'll have to pick up figures from something that you prepared. So staying organized is really important. So let's talk a little bit about this. How can you stay organized? What can you do to help yourself do some of this yourself and save money? Being organized is definitely a key to a smooth process. Without being organized, things can really quickly become overwhelming. And I've spoken to a few people this week who are saying the same things, that I'm completely overwhelmed. I haven't got a good system for organizing myself. I don't really know what I need to save and where, and I can't manage this now. It's become too big. So before you do anything else, start thinking about what essential documents do you need to bring together. So a marriage certificate, you need your marriage certificate saved as a digital copy somewhere. Start saving financial records. So your bank statements, 12 months bank statements, details about your mortgage, details about your house, so valuations. If you've got a rental property, you also need the tenancy agreement. You need details about your pensions, your liabilities. So everything that I mentioned that you need to start putting down on a spreadsheet, you need to start bringing the documents together for that and start filing it in a digital folder system. So you've got financial documents, and then you've got property documents, pension documents, debt documents, so that you can see this filing cabinet, digital filing cabinet of documents coming together, which just helps you feel organized. If you've got other documents that are relevant, then that's worth keeping together as well. So any agreements that you have made with your ex-partner, any emails that you send out, you can save them in chronological order in a digital folder. Anything that you may have had pre-marriage, so say a prenuptial agreement, if you bought a property and there was an agreement that money that was given to you for that property was a gift, if you've got those documents, worth putting them away. So anything else. So keep everything in an organized space in one place can help you really feel just more confident about what's going on. It makes negotiations easier. It means that you've got things to hand. If you prefer to have a physical document folder, then that's obviously possible as well. There'll be certain things that you need to file at certain points. So you can have a spreadsheet that tracks key deadlines. So if there's something that you need to file on a certain date, then you can put that date there. You can put it in your calendar, wherever you need to keep it so that you feel organized. See it as a project. Lots of people have things like Trello boards or a project management software that people use. And there they actually put divorce documents, divorce deadlines, and see it as a project. Because when you see it like that, you will take the steps that you need to take and track what you need to track. You will feel more confident and more prepared if you organize yourselves really well. The other thing that we can look at is how you communicate and negotiate. So besides obviously all the different elements that I asked you to sort of watch on YouTube for the different videos, these are extra things that could be quite useful. One of the biggest challenges I see in divorce is communication, especially when your emotions are running high, when you're feeling overwhelmed. But if you can learn how to manage your discussions with the other person, even discussions with professionals, it will make a really big difference and save you a lot of money. So for example, if you already have a lawyer, what you might find is if you instruct that lawyer differently, if you speak differently on the phone, via email, you can keep your costs down. Because the first thing is keep your emotions in check. Because when you're speaking to your lawyer, when you're speaking to a mediator, when you're speaking to the other person, if you are feeling extremely frustrated, upset, emotional, you are struggling to get across the things that you need to get across in a way that is understandable. So trying to do this is, I know it's really difficult because it is an emotional subject, but trying to do this will really help you because it means that you will focus on facts. You will focus on what is in the best interest of the children. You will not focus on the past so much. You will be looking forward. And that's what we want. We want you to look forward rather than look backwards. So trying to manage this is really important. And sometimes if you've got discussions that you need to have, some people need to have a call with CAFCASS, which is like social services for court proceedings. Some people will have social services to speak to, or the police. So many different organizations that you might need to speak to. It's worth having something written down of pertinent points because that keeps you on track, stops you from going completely in a different direction. It makes you, reminds you of the points that you want to bring up, but also can help you keep your emotions on track because you're just following a document that you've written. If you can, try and, especially if you're negotiating with the other person or communicating with the other person, try and keep your written communication, try and keep all communication written if possible. Because what that means is you've got time to draft it, you've got time to think before responding. It gives you an audit trail of all the discussions and all the negotiations that you've had. It gives you an audit trail of any agreements you've reached. Because sometimes what happens when you're going through this process, you'll reach agreements on certain things, maybe not on everything, but you're concentrating, for example, on in a meeting, you're concentrating on what happens with the family home. You have lots of discussions, you follow it up by email because you may have reached an agreement on just that element. And later on, you may reach agreements on other elements. So you've kind of got this audit trail of what you've agreed. It also can stop you from having unnecessary arguments, because when you are keeping your emotions in check, putting things in writing, you will talk a different way by email, and it might reduce the number of arguments that you might have, because that is really important. You can have face-to-face meetings, you might have discussions via text message, WhatsApp messages, but always a good idea to follow it up with an email as you are getting to agreements, or if there's something big that you need to just put out there, then it's always worth putting it in an email because that can save you money later on. And somebody also mentioned that they're already in mediation, which is a really good way of saving money. If you are struggling to communicate, lots of people will get involved in sort of solicitors' letters going backwards and forwards. And that can be really expensive because there's 4 of you in this process. And it can cost quite a bit. Sometimes it's easier to book a mediator and have discussions face-to-face or online via a mediator, because that can save you quite a bit of money. I would definitely consider this before spending so much money on sort of letters going backwards and forwards. It's more cost effective. It can be a more amicable way of resolving anything that is a dispute. What you might say is, I'm not sure that my ex-husband or wife will come to mediation. And obviously you've got to start the process to see if that could be something they would come to. It's voluntary, so you can't force them to come, but it's definitely a good option to try. If you find you go to mediation and they are not disclosing information about the finances, they are refusing to come to an agreement, it might be that you've learned something about their position during mediation, but it can't continue. But lots of people do get to an agreement via mediation. And it can be around the finances, it can be around children, practical aspects, like who's going to pay the mortgage and bills right now, how are we splitting time with the children while we're still living in the same house. It might be that you're deciding what date one person moves out. So lots of things that can be decided during mediation. So these different ways can really help you save money. So there are tools and resources that you can use again to try and save money. The co-parenting apps are quite good. So if you've got children and you are struggling to communicate by text message, you're struggling to communicate by phone, it might be that you use an app like Our Family Wizard. There's one called AppClose as well, which can help you manage schedules, can help you manage sort of payments for things. You can communicate via the app, and both of you will be aware that the communication on here can be shared with the court. And so therefore, most people are very careful how they write things on there. But it's quite handy to have something like that. And that can save you a lot of money in communication via solicitors or even mediation via these apps. I have lots of clients that use them. They find it quite useful. They find that the tone is very different via the apps because they know that this is not just a private conversation, it can be shared. So that really helps. I believe Our Family Wizard has a subscription and that at the moment AppClose doesn't. So might be worth looking at those. I have a divorce planner, which is obviously the opposite of a wedding planner, but this is all about step-by-step guides to help you organize yourself, from legal steps to finances to children. And what you get is downloadable resources that you can fill in and you can start moving forward and taking action. So that's quite useful as well to obtain. And I'll tell you where you can get that. That's on Amazon. And it's quite a useful starting point to just start putting things down on paper. So think about what resources you could use to help you. And I know that, you know, you're likely to say, but I don't have enough knowledge. I don't really know where to go to get that knowledge. And that's really important as well. It's such an interesting point. It's because you could use all of the things that I've told you, but you might say, where do I go if I've got a question? I don't know enough to navigate the whole process on my own. And I completely get that. So there's different things that you could do if you are feeling like you don't have enough knowledge, because that is important. Getting knowledge is really important. So whether you do it yourself, whether you instruct a lawyer, whether you mix this with different professionals to help you, you need to get knowledge. Even if your lawyer is doing everything for you, do not rely on them to give you everything, because they may have a different viewpoint to you. So I see this again a lot. A lawyer has taken over a case, and I'm not saying that they're bad, because obviously I used to practice as a lawyer, and that's my professional background. They take an understanding of what they think you need and sort of progress your case accordingly. And sometimes there's decisions to be made, and you don't know, because you haven't got the knowledge, the best decision. And they'll say, it's best to do it this way. You say yes, and off you go. But actually, it's important that you question everything. It's important that you have your own knowledge so that you can make the best decisions when there is a decision to be made. You're not just relying on that one person. And also, when you're mixing and matching and sort of buying in the help you need, it's really, again, important to know when you can do things yourself, when you need to get some professional help, when, again, you might be able to do a whole load of things yourself, and then you might need to go and get some more advice. So again, having that knowledge is really important as well. We don't want you to make mistakes. We don't want you to be in a position where you don't know the right thing to do. So to spend some time understanding, spend some time getting to grips with the legal aspects, the financial, the divorce process, the children, the law around the children and the process. So some of that will come from my YouTube channel. There's lots of free videos there, and you can obviously get that sort of information in other places as well. The work that I do is always about empowering you to take steps yourself, but teaching you how to do it. So my paid work is like that as well. I may have a one-to-one with you where we are planning out your proposals, your financial proposals based on the information you've given me. But I will show you the things that you can do yourself to save money, but also do some of it for you so that you have got a proposal that you're happy with, that we can actually make happen, that we've looked at the pros and cons, we've checked your income and expenditure, and we know that this is possible and a good option for you before you negotiate it or before you go into mediation, so that you're prepared. You can buy in help. So some people, what they prefer to do is to do their own divorce application, start on the financial disclosure so they can get an idea of what the finances are, then actually spend time with somebody going through potentially the things that are missing, that the other person hasn't provided. How can I get these? Is it even important? Or it might be, I've got all the information, I'm happy with everything I've got, I don't know what proposal is right. How do I settle my finances? So you buy in that help when you need it. It might be that you buy in the help of a mediator you might buy in the help of an accountant for, say, capital gains tax liability or valuing a business, for example. So you might be happy to manage it all and buy in the help. So just understanding the best way of doing it for you is really important. But knowledge is the most important thing that ties in everything. So just make sure that you are thinking about how you can get knowledge, how you can get a bigger understanding of what you need to do and how this process works. And actually, I might be coming out of time. I've gone on quite a bit, haven't I? But let me just move on to the things that you shouldn't really do yourself. Because as much as I like my clients to do a lot of things themselves, and I'm giving them the resources to go away and do things themselves, certain things that you shouldn't DIY, you should get some advice on your finances. Even if you've reached an agreement yourself, just get someone to look over that, because there may be a way of structuring that agreement so it protects you. It might be that you've agreed something and there may be a better way of writing it so that actually, again, you are protected. It might be that you need to get some help on thinking about what proposals are right for you, because sometimes people don't understand the law and they may agree things and go ahead with them, and they're not the right thing for you. So think about those. Drafting consent orders. And I saw that there was a question about a consent order, which I'll come to. Drafting a consent order, which is a financial document, a financial consent order, is not something you should do yourself. A parenting plan for children, you could definitely do that yourself. It doesn't have to be in a certain format. It's something that both of you are signing. It's arrangements for your children, and it isn't going to court. So you could definitely do that yourself. But a consent order, it has to be in a certain format. It needs to have a certain type of wording. It needs to be put in certain ways so that a court will accept it. So a consent order I wouldn't draft by yourself. There's lots of places you can get a consent order drafted for you. You could get a solicitor's firm to do it for you. It can cost about £2,500 to get it drafted for you by a solicitor's firm. There can be other low-cost providers that can do it at a cheaper rate as well. But I never suggest that you do that yourself unless you've got a professional helping you. So with my clients, they do draft consent orders sometimes by themselves. It's because I give them the basis. They've got a document and they might just be amending one paragraph. And I then check that and work with them to make sure it's correct. So obviously my clients can do it, but they have got someone helping them. So you be careful if you're drafting that by yourself. But also don't be forced to make decisions under pressure. If you feel under pressure, if you feel like it's not quite right, get some advice, even if it is 1 hour, so that you can get some guidance on this. And obviously there's different ways to work with people, and I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly, but certain things you shouldn't just go ahead and do. You should check in with somebody. And it might be like a mortgage broker. You might want to get some advice on mortgages. You may need a financial advisor. You might need a pensions advisor, but there are certain professionals you might need along this journey, and certain things you shouldn't do yourself like that. But to end, what I would like to say is that there are lots of steps that you need to take through this process. Take one step at a time, deal with one element, and then move on to the next, because it is really overwhelming. There is a lot to do, but little by little, one travels far. So when you are overwhelmed, break down what you need to do into small steps and just take those small steps to get you to where you need to get to. Often it's tempting just to put your head in the sand and it doesn't go away, but you need to take action and you don't want to delay so much either. So just see what you can do to take those steps forward. And before I finish, I'll just tell you a little bit about how I work. I have a 6-month program. It's a fixed fee. And in that, I am guiding you every step of the way, giving you all the resources you need, helping you, talking to you, whether it's emotional, whether it's overwhelm, whether it's legal, whether it's financial, even around the children. I'm guiding you every step. We are talking through everything. I'm checking correspondence, I'm checking anything you send out, I'm checking things that are coming in so that I can keep guiding you. So it's quite intense. I'm there to help you take action. And that works really well because you have got me there for accountability and to move you forward as well. You can work with me one-to-one. We can book an hour if you want some ad hoc advice. You could book a 90-minute session. So we just see what you need, and I will, in that session, give you the resources you need to take action yourself as well. And then you can just book another hour when you need it. But it's all about making you take that action, giving you the resources you need so you could save money and keep things moving forward. I also work with couples in my amicable divorce package. I don't do so many of those, but that is something you can inquire about as well. If any of this is something you'd like to know more about, you want to know how to work with me one-to-one, you might want to know how to work with me on the program, feel free to book a call. And what we can do is we can chat things through and we can see what the best thing is for you so that you get an idea of what you need to do, how you could work with me, and that can really help as well. So feel free to book a call and I'll give you the links shortly. This is the detail of my divorce planner, which is on Amazon, and I'll drop those links to you and different ways that you can get in touch with me as well. So let me just put those links there. I don't know if Nelma is still on the call, but I'll put those links in so that you can find ways to get in touch, to book a call, and find YouTube, LinkedIn, anywhere that you need to find me. So what I'm going to do is just have a look. There was a couple of questions, I think. So let's have a look. I hope you found that helpful and there was something there that you could take away. Okay, question. When do I tell him I'm looking at buying him out? Is that the first question? No, it isn't the first question. Let's go back a bit. Started the conversation about finances. He had responded telling me for the house to be sold and the equity to be split 50-50. So that's, I'm presuming, what he wants to do. Regarding pension savings and any current debt and future financial gains, I believe we should keep what belongs to us individually. So I'm not sure what the question was there because you've told me what he wants. What question do you have? So just let me know below if there is a question. When do I tell him I'm looking at buying him out? It depends. There may be lots of options available to you. You might say that, you could sell the house. That could be one option. He could buy you out. You could buy him out. You could keep the house in joint names and live there till your youngest child is 18. There's lots of options for property. Have you done the numbers on that? Have you worked out whether that is possible, whether it's viable, what the pitfalls are of buying him out? Have you looked at whether it's more cost effective to sell? So there's quite a whole, load of things that we need to do before I would even go forward to tell him that you want to buy him out, because you need to do your homework first. Once you've done your homework, you feel confident that that is the right decision, then you could put that to him. When that is, depends on how emotionally he is, how accepting he is of the divorce, whether you've started having discussions about what the options are in your divorce. So you have to find the right time to do that. But I don't know when that is because obviously I don't know enough, but I usually speak to clients to take them through when that could be the right time. But definitely once you are empowered and you have full knowledge of what is best. It's been over 6 months since we exchanged financial disclosure and I have replied with questions, but he is not responding. My solicitor has suggested that we issue court proceedings and this will be very expensive. Any ideas? It's difficult for me to approach my husband. Okay, that really interesting question and lots of people have this. There'll be something in those questions that he doesn't want to answer. And it's quite clear. I always say that if someone's delaying, if someone stops, then there's a reason. Do you know the reason why? you think he doesn't want to answer these questions? Is there something there you're asking that he was hoping to hide? Something he just doesn't want to give you information about? Again, what I usually question myself is, can we proceed without this information? So I would always say that to my clients to try and save them money. What is it we think that we're trying to achieve through this extra questions? Is it worth moving forward without him answering those? And obviously, I don't know the answers to those questions to guide you on your next step, but that's the kind of things that I'd be asking my clients to answer so that I could guide them. Court proceedings can be really stressful, that they're a lot more involved than you would expect. Lots of people don't feel like they get justice in court proceedings either. You think you might go there and he'll answer all the questions and you'll negotiate, and if you can't get to a sensible agreement, that the court will make a sensible agreement. And really, it's not like that at all. It's really hard when somebody is refusing to provide information. You can get cost orders, penal notices, all sorts of consequences, and they still don't provide it. So it's working out whether it's worth pushing with these questions and getting that information, whether you can come up with proposals anyway. Is it worth going to court? Depending on what the cost-benefit analysis is. If you haven't tried mediation, is it worth trying mediation? Is there other out-of-court resolution options that might be available to you that might be better? So there are lots of options that are out of court. Something called finance neutral might be an option. But I'd kind of need the answers to those questions to decide what your best options are. What is the difference between a consent order and a financial order? So a financial order is the same thing as a financial consent order, and consent order often. So a consent order, financial order, clean break order, all of these are the same things. And what it means for those of you that are just starting out is when you have reached an agreement on your finances, it's advisable to have it put into this document called a financial order, consent order, clean break order, all of these names. And what this does, it means that the other person can't change their mind. They can't claim on you on death. They can't claim on you while you're alive. And this settles your finances completely. If they don't do something they've said in the consent order, you can get a judge to enforce it as well. Like if a lump sum is due to you of 100,000 and they don't pay it, the court, you can take them to court to enforce it. But it's the same thing. The only thing that you need to be aware of, that you can get a consent order for children matters. So even though you've reached an agreement, you might want it in the form of a court order, and that court order can be called a consent order as well. So just making sure that you are aware. Another direct message. So would one use yourself as a solicitor mediator then? It depends what you mean by that. When I work with couples, I am almost like a divorce coach. I'm guiding them on the law. I'm guiding them on the steps. I'm helping them take the steps. And then I'm helping them with the negotiation as well. So with couples, I do that. When I work one-on-one, I don't act as your mediator. I wouldn't act necessarily as your solicitor, but I'm kind of doing all the same things. You're doing it yourself, and I'm guiding you and checking what you're doing. Thank you so much for all your information and sharing your story. This was so useful. Thank you so much. Grateful, really grateful, as this is completely overwhelming. The info you provide is so helpful, but even hearing you every week brings immense reassurance and comfort. So thank you. Does one need a position statement? Okay. I would always do a position statement before every hearing. So you've got a hearing. I would always do a position statement. It gives the judge a snapshot of what your position is. You bring everything together in that one document. If you're representing yourself, it helps you know what you're asking for as well. So I would always do a position statement. Can he claim my pension when I was working? We have no assets, money, or kids together. If you've got nothing else besides your pensions, that would be put in the marital pot. It depends on whether that pension was all before marriage, for example. If that pension you stopped paying into before you got married, it might be it's a non-marital asset. If you've been separated for a couple of years and you started that pension after separation, it might be again, it's a non-marital asset. If it is part of you were paying into it during your marriage, it could be a marital asset and it might need to be looked at as to whether it's worth splitting. So do you check the papers then? And we don't need a solicitor. Lots of my clients don't have solicitors. I check everything for you. I check letters that you're sending out, emails you're sending out, letters coming in, so we decide what to do. I prepare you for mediation, prepare you for court proceedings, help you with your position statements, witness statements, court applications, everything. So I help you with all of it. You are doing the work yourself, but I am giving you, say, for example, if you're writing a position statement, I would give you an example position statement. We'd talk about the points that need to be in there. You would then go away and have a go, and then I'll help you redraft it, review it, say, okay, write it like this. You forgot to add X, Y, Z. That tightens what you're saying. So I would always be looking over everything that you do. So for example, a Form E. If you're doing a Form E, I will go through that. I would help you with it. So I have resources to help you with how to fill in a Form E. You have a go. Anywhere there's blanks, I'll look over it all. Anywhere that you've filled it in, I'll be guiding you, checking it. A solicitor charges about £5,000-6,000 to do a Form E. You don't have to pay that sort of money. We can very easily do it. You do need guidance with it, but say with my fixed fee program, it's nowhere near what a solicitor would charge for a Form E, but you'll get your Form E done and much more. Thanks for your feedback. And he has property overseas. So he has stated that he cannot get the information valuation paperwork. This may be the holdup. Should we move forward and then come back to this? Again, it depends what it is. Often they say that to stop you from moving forward. I've got plenty of clients that have got properties overseas and they very quickly get information. So it may be the case. It might be you could get it. You could make some inquiries. So it really depends on what it is and why. And thank you to the person that has booked a call. I look forward to speaking to you. So I'm going to stop that there. We've gone way over. I completely got involved with what I was talking about and didn't keep an eye on the time. So do apologize. You take care and look forward to seeing you next week or having a chat with you if you've booked a call. Do take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.